Your reporting. We appreciate it.
You bet.
For more on this, I am joined now by Congressman Peter King, a member of the Homeland Security Committee and chairman of the Subcommittee on Counterterrorism and Intelligence. Congressman, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Kristen, thank you.
So they say there's no specific threat. What do you know, though, about the intelligence that they have at this point, and what is your message that you want people to know?
Yeah, actually, my understanding is that's right. There is no precise, specific intelligence. But there's such an accumulation of events over the last several weeks, plus this intense effort by ISIS to reach out through the internet, much more so, I believe, than other al-Qaeda type groups, other Islamist groups. They are really going out of their way to touch on radical people, even people who may have mental issues, like the person in Jamaica, Queens, who attacked the NYPD officer with an axe. He was involved in radical Islam, but at the same time he was really not all there. He had serious mental issues, but he was drawn by this. The man in Canada also, he was drawn by this. They were not active members of ISIS. They were not on anyone's payroll for ISIS, but the fact is they're the type who are being attracted by this. In addition to that, there are real ISIS activists we have to be worried about them coming to the country. So really there's a wider array of actors here who can be helping ISIS. So that's the real concern.
Congressman, how concerned are you that we are going to see one of these lone wolf attacks here? And are you satisfied that we are prepared to deal with such an attack?
I believe it's only a matter of time that we have one. I think most people in the intelligence community share that belief. I think that we are more prepared than we have been in the past. I give Jay Johnson credit for doing this, not just for the actual security it's going to bring to the federal buildings and the federal courthouses, but also that can be a wake-up call to local governments. Now, we don't need that in New York. The NYPD is always ready, and they are always at a high alert level. But I think there's other areas around the country that don't realize how these attacks can take place and how there's a greater likelihood of it now, because ISIS is doing such an intense job of trying to attract the most radical people in our country to adopt this radical Islamist view. And that's why you saw the police officer attacked in New York, you saw the military and the parliament attacked in Canada, and you also saw the other soldiers in Canada being run down by a vehicle by another Islamist. So there's attacks on military, police, government buildings, and this is exactly what ISIS has been calling for. So it's not a coincidence.
Congressman, I want to shift now to the reports that we're learning about today, that Russia is suspected to have hacked into the computer system at the White House. What can you tell us about this, and does this represent a broader gap in security here? How concerned are you about future attacks?
Well, basically, just based on the public reports, we have to be concerned about cyber attacks. What happened here at the White House certainly appears to be carried out by a nation state, most likely the Russians. It doesn't appear as if they were trying to disrupt the system so much as they were trying to gather information. The good news is that we detected it and adopted countermeasures. But no, this is in many ways is going to be the battleground of the future. And it's hard, it's more difficult to get the American people to focus on it as far as getting legislation through, because you don't see a cyber attack, you don't see a bomb go off, you don't see somebody attack with an axe or a machine gun. Cyber attack is silent but deadly, and so that is really, the Russians have done this before, the Iranians have attempted it, Chinese do it, and now this attack on the White House, apparent attack, and I would say, if I had to bet, that it's the Russians behind it.
Congressman, can you give us an indication about why? Why do you say you think it's the Russians?
They've tried this before. Back in 2008 they did it, and just from sources that you hear in the public, they have attempted this before, and if anything, I would say it's probably a response by them to our policies against them in Ukraine.
All right, and I want to get you on one more topic. Earlier today, Secretary Hagel just signed the order that all U.S. military returning from West Africa will have to be quarantined for 21 days. I want to get your reaction to that, Congressman, but also to these mandatory quarantines that are in place in New York and New Jersey.
I believe there should be a quarantine, and I don't look upon it as a stigma. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when astronauts came back from space and they had to stay quarantined. To me, I'd rather be safe than sorry, and these people who go over there are heroes. They're heroic. I don't see how you have the courage to go in and treat somebody, with these horrible diseases, but at the same time, if there's any risk at all of them bringing it back here and endangering others, then I think the quarantine period, it's better for them, it's better for society, and it's the safest thing wanting to do. And
Congressman, can I just get you really quickly, because we're almost out of time? The White House would argue that this is going to disincentivize healthcare workers from going over to West Africa to fight the disease at its source. What about that argument?
Well, we do need more people combating it at the source, but I don't know why they should be that offended when they come back, because, again, this was done to astronauts. It's now done to the military. If the military is willing to do it, I don't see why doctors and nurses and healthcare workers, are not willing to pay that extra sacrifice. They're making the sacrifice of going there. To me, a 21-day quarantine, it's not like they're in jail. It's not like they're being penalized. I think we should say they're heroes. I would give them all citations and commend them for what they're doing. But, again, what we saw in New York with the doctor who did go in the subway, did go to the bowling alley, did go to restaurants, to me, that created the expense of it, and also, again, possibly putting people at risk.
Congressman Peter King, we always appreciate your insights. Thank you so much.
Kristen, thank you.